Joe Biden has just proposed the largest capital income tax hike in U.S. history as a part of the 2025 budget. So that would increase capital gains tax to over 44%, which would put it in some of the more liberal states like California and New York to over 50%. And you can imagine a lot of economists and critics are saying that this is going to de-incentivize people from investing, because a capital gains tax, it's essentially a tax that you pay on any income you make for your investment. So let's say you put $100,000 in the stock market, and by the time you sell off your stocks, the value of your stocks increased by $200,000. That's $100,000 in capital gains that you made. So you would be paying tax on that money. If you buy a house for $300,000, sell it for $5,000, you would be paying capital gains tax on that $200,000 difference. So you can see how critics would say this would de-incentivize people from investing. So what would be the incentive for an administration to want to increase taxes on its citizens and de-incentivize making investments? Because obviously if you're paying 50% on what you earn, you're much less likely to take a risk. So to answer this question, Joe Biden actually kind of answered it a little bit, but I think it's even more interesting to go back to 2008, the presidential debate between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. And this is an exchange that was had between Charlie Gibson, the moderator, and Obama. So let's look. This is really interesting. So Gibson says to Obama, "All right, you have, however, said you would favor an increase in capital gains tax. As a matter of fact, you said on CNBC, and I quote, 'I certainly would not go above what existed under Bill Clinton, which was 28%. It's now 15%. That's almost doubling if you went to 28%. But actually,' he said, 'Bill Clinton in 1997 signed legislation that dropped the capital gains tax to 20%. Obama said, 'Right.' Gibson continued, 'And George Bush has taken it down to 15%. Obama said, 'Right.' And Gibson continued again. And in each instance, when the rate dropped, revenues from tax increased. The government took in more money. And then in the 1980s, when the tax was increased to 28%, the revenues went down. So why raise it at all, especially given the fact that 100 million people in this country own stock and would be affected?' And Obama said, 'Well, Charlie, it's what I've said I would look at. Raising the taxes, the capital gains taxes, for the purposes of fairness.' Fairness. Fairness in political terms equals equity. Equality of outcome. Equality of outcome is a core tenet of communism. Now let's look at Biden's reason for wanting to increase capital gains taxes. It says here, this is from the Daily Mail, Biden's Treasury Department notes that increasing capital gains tax is a way to level the playing field financially between different races in the U.S., claiming that this would disproportionately apply to white Americans. Black and Hispanic families are much less likely to hold stock. And of those families who do, their composition of investment portfolios look much different than white families, wrote Biden's team in a document titled Advancing Equity Through Tax Reform, Effects of the Administration's Fiscal Year 2025 Revenue Proposals on Racial Wealth Inequality. It notes that 73% of white families owned a home in 2023. Okay, so you can continue to read if you want. This is communism. That's what it is. It's equity. It's not equality of opportunity. It's equality of outcome. It's taking from some to level the playing field from everyone else. And who does this benefit? It doesn't benefit our country. And if you have less tax revenue in the cities, that's less services for everyone else. And typically, the people that have to pay more tax revenue, they leave. And actually, when that capital gains was at 28%, you had businesses that were divesting in America and investing elsewhere where the taxes were a lot lower, where they would have to pay less taxes for their risks. Here's another example. So why do you think that they will film movies and television shows in Vancouver and make it look like New York City. The reason they do that is money. It's cheaper to film in Vancouver. There's more tax incentives for them to film in Vancouver, so they go there. Now, that also hurts, it might benefit the person that's doing business, but it actually hurts New York and the people of New York. It hurts the New York economy. It hurts New York employees, New York actors, crew members that would be hired on those crews. So not only is all of that tax revenue going to Vancouver as opposed to New York, all of those jobs are going to Vancouver as opposed to New York. And remember Donald Trump, he got so much crap for lowering the corporate tax rate. But when he did that, it actually incentivized businesses to keep their business here in the United States because it was cost effective, and that created jobs for U.S. citizens. So this tax hike is actually communism, and it's going to do nothing to help business. It's going to do nothing to help investment. It's going to do nothing to help tax revenue, services, jobs. So there's that.